Politically incorrect, actress Kudrow, actor Hamill, journalist Jeff Greenfield, and radio host Roger Hedgecock. And now, the star of Politically Incorrect, Bill Maher!
Thank you very much. Oh. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Oh, you're very kind. Well, did you see Star Wars? I tell you, went back. A reopening 20 years ago, and it's still like the second biggest opening ever. And we have Mark Hamill here today, so very exciting. And even the administration picked up on it. Al Gore said, "The force is with us." He was talking about the economy. I love that when when they do that. The force is with us. I think it's not surprising that the administration, though, is thinking about Star Wars, because with the campaign finance scandals they have, they can really identify with the concept of being released after 20 years. Al Gore said, you know, with the American economy the way it is, the force is with us. I love that when they pick up on those cultural things like that. Then he admitted that R2-D2 is his father. And he compared Newt Gingrich to Uranus, which I think was... Yes, they are in trouble over there, the Clinton administration. A senior official, very high up, a guy said that it was, he said, quote, a huge mistake to give the kind of access they did to foreigners in the White House. He said, for one thing, the Lincoln bedroom still smells like curry, which huge mistake. Huge mistake to do that joke is what it was. But, Clinton also met with the governors. You know, they're all in Washington. They all have their pet programs that they want to get across, Medicaid and welfare reform. Pete Wilson, of course, still with the immigrants. But Clinton took him aside and explained to him how to make money off foreigners, which is a better way to go. And in news from England, apparently Prince Charles is never going to marry Camilla Parker Bowles, his girlfriend. That's what they say. They'll never marry, never have children. And geneticists are saying that this is the best news since the polio vaccine. Anyway, thank you for coming. It's all been satirized for your protection. Show, and let us meet our panel. Oh, please. He is the former mayor of San Diego. He hosts the community forum on News Talk Radio. Roger Hedgecock, right over here. Mayor, thank you for coming back. He is, of course, a political and media analyst for ABC. His latest novel, The People's Choice, now available in paperback form. Our friend Jeff Greenfield. Good to see you, my friend.
Hold it up to the host.
Thank you. His graphic novel is called Black Pearl, and his film Star Wars, or something like that, made $36 million this weekend. Mark Hamill. Nice to meet you. Congratulations. And you all know this lady. She has been nominated for an Emmy, a Golden Globe, and an American Comedy Award for her role as Phoebe on NBC's Friends, Lisa Kudrow. Hello, darling. How are you? Nice to see you. Okay. Now, sit back and I'll entertain you here for a second. Well, it's time once again to bestow our time-honored Prince Rogers Nelson Get Over Yourself Award, which we confer upon those persons or groups most in need of getting over themselves. Tonight's recipient is a World War II villain, a group whose name alone conjures up visions of pure evil. Of course, I'm talking about the Swiss. I'm sure you've all heard the dirt lately about how they were the bankers for the Third Reich, and believe me, the Goebbels estate has the free calendars to prove it. It's true. Swiss banks were the place of deposit for all the dough that rolled in while Hitler looted Europe. Hitler. Remember him? Oh, yes, if you think Hitler is just a mass murderer, think again. World War II was also a stick-up. But like today's Miami banker who takes $1 million deposit in small crumpled up bills and pretends it's from a dry cleaning business, so the Swiss looked the other way when dirtier money yodeled its way into their accounts. Even our own Senator Alphonse D'Amato says that Swiss bankers are guilty of 50 years of deception. And when Al D'Amato calls you a weasel, well... Now, I'll admit, I've had it out for these Swiss bastards ever since I spent a summer over there in 1978. Trust me, the Swiss are the kind of people who would turn you into the police for dropping a gum wrapper on a train. And then they'd throw you into the slammer for a weekend to be terrorized by a fat French homosexual named Jobert. Not that that happened to anyone in particular. I'm sorry, but the Swiss are a cheesy people, and they certainly don't deserve the cuddly cuckoo clock image they have. Yeah, the Swiss are cool because they're the neutral country, man, never gone to war. Well, let's examine the chief reason why that is. Money! Switzerland never gets attacked because everybody's money is there. They just hit on a very clever scam to stay out of the line of fire. Be the guy in the poker game who's holding the money. He never gets shot. Armies will kill civilians, bomb orphanages, strafe refugee columns, but no one bombs money. And so, for capitalizing on this most cynical truth of all, for collaborating with history's vilest villains, and for Slim Whitman, Switzerland, get over yourself! Glad I got that off my chest.
Really? Hope you feel better.
Anyone want to defend Switzerland?
Not after that.
Make the trains run on time, but maybe that's part of why they...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
but I think you've been a little unfair, actually, singling out Switzerland. I have that same feeling about most European countries.
Like?
Well, basically, the European countries are, the Western European countries are pretty skilled at craven collapse to totalitarians. The French,
yep.
whose reaction to Hitler was, would you like the red or the white wine?
Right.
You know, I mean, outside of Denmark, and, you know, our own record in terms of saving folks from what Hitler was up to is not the best. So outside of Denmark, we're not looking at a great record.
A lot of these images that the European countries have, and you must have traveled in Europe, all of you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, like the Swiss, I don't think they're really true. I mean, one example, why did the Polish get the reputation of being dumb? I don't know them.
When I was in England, I heard the exact same jokes that we heard with the fill in the word Polak about the Irish, and that shocked me. In our house, we had to say, why did the moron do this? How many morons does it take? We couldn't pick a group. But what surprised me was in England, I heard the very same jokes, except it was the Irish. So I guess there's always...
Who are drunks. I'm kidding. But that's their reputation.
Some things are true, though. I mean, you've got that situation. These things are myths, but they're built on what? Experience people have in daily life.
Polish people are dumb and Irish are dumb?
No, the ones that came to America.
I think it's because the Russians got here first and started all the Polak jokes.
The Russians got here first?
Yeah, the Russian immigrants came over and just started making fun of the Poles.
Oh, no.
That they knew from back home.
So they get dibs on the pejorative humor.
It's a good theory, though. You know, it's possible. And also, you're not, you know, since we all know that the Jews run the comedy business, they're not going to write jokes about how stupid they are, right? It's not going to happen.
Yes, well, all right.
Marlon Brando.
What about the English? No, how come the English conquered half the world, but they can't figure out central heating, dentistry, or how to cook?
Nobody's perfect.
I mean, seriously, what is up with that?
That's why they conquered half the world. Who wanted to stay home?
I mean, these people boil toast. I mean,
They're still mad at us. Now, my eldest son was born in England, and in the bicentennial, in 1976, we were in England, so we missed the big whoop-de-doo over here. And I always got the attitude, and it's generalizing, of course, that they had the feeling that we were sort of wayward children who were... just needed to learn that they were right all along. I mean, they didn't call it Independence Day. The July 4th holiday to them was Good Riddance Day. And I was really surprised, right. You know, because, you know, everybody loves their own country the best, but I still think that...
Not the French. No. Isn't your husband French?
Yeah. He hates it there. Oh, no.
What?
Well, in case someone hears, it'll be bad for him.
Do they get this program in France?
Why does he hate it there?
He hates Parisian people, mostly. They're judgmental and over very superficial things, and they're ridiculous.
And their reputation. And their reputation for food is preposterous, too, because who couldn't make food taste good if you smothered it in butter? I could eat a snail.
It's true.
Right.
But not only that, but the French people that I've met, you can take them to the worst restaurant, and if the presentation is nice, they say, but it's delicious. You know, it's like the best thing they've ever eaten. They're not really that discriminating.
I don't think Princess Di is bulimic. I just don't think she can get down the food any better than anybody else over there. Anyway, we're a little over time. We have to take a break, and we will return.
If you're planning to be in the Los Angeles area and would like free tickets to Politically Incorrect, call 213-852-2655.
Well, Mark just said to me in the break, I like this show because it's the one show where, you know, people don't promote their movies. But I was saying the only time I really want to talk about a movie that's out is when it's a phenomenon. We talked about Waiting to Exhale. We talked about First Wives Club, Hits a Nerve. I have to ask, why is Star Wars, after 20 years, still this phenomenon?
Well, people don't ask that question if they re-release a Disney classic.
But
Peter
they don't make
Pan
this
or
kind of
whatever.
money. They don't have this kind of thing.
Well, I don't know that they don't. I think that it's because it's a fairy tale, and fairy tales are timeless. It's as simple as that. People mistake the special effects and the trappings of space travel and think, ooh, it's science fiction, but it's really not. It's got a princess, it's got a pirate, it's got a farm boy, it's got a wizard, and it makes people feel good about themselves because it's got a kind of an innocent take on doing the right thing in a selfless way.
Yeah.
I mean...
Okay, that answers that.
And it's got,
You know, I have to tell you, you mentioned Al Gore talking about the forces with the economy, and I remember the only other time politics intruded on us, and it made me really mad because I didn't really care about all the lawsuits flying about, because when with great success, of course, come lawsuits. But when the Reagan administration appropriated our name for that. I was so mad when George lost that case. I said, well, you know what? Let's start calling our movies the Strategic Defense Initiative Trilogy. And, you know, like, he said that's a bad idea. Yeah. Oh, it's a good idea. Oh, it's a good idea. All right, all of us will call it that.
So what were you going to say?
No, I was just wondering if there was ever any, like, jealousy among the actors and Yoda. Maybe
mostly because the robots and Yoda don't age. I mean, I'm just steeling myself for the time when a kid on the street asks me if I'm Luke's father.
But we know who that is, right?
We think we do.
Didn't we find that out?
Well, you know, my son is closer to Luke's age than I am now. So when I went to the movie for the first time in 20 years, I hadn't seen it. And for some reason, I was very moved because it seemed to me as though that were him, not me.
Wow.
And that's also a great way to not take responsibility for your performance.
You know, your Reagan comment, though, is interesting because I think that movie coming out in the late 70s like that, with the morality play, the good versus evil and all of that, I think that laid the cultural groundwork for Reagan being elected in 1980 with this evil empire.
Our fault.
Sure. Big government. Wait a minute. Big government was the big galactic war machine and all that stuff. That was pretty symbolic stuff.
Oh, so it's our fault now.
Yes, it is.
See, I don't know, with some of these guys running for office today, I would think The Exorcist would be a much better example of laying cultural groundwork, frankly.
That's the difference between 1980 and 1996.
But that's an interesting theory. So Reagan is, and the evil empire, there was an evil empire,
sure there
right?
was.
And Reagan was always a sheriff who rode into town.
Absolutely.
And I've heard this is like a space western. I've never seen this film, but I hear
Oh, you're the one.
I hear it's terrific. That's Cindy. You think there's something to that?
No, but what I think Mark's absolutely right about is that every so often a movie comes out and it gets into the cultural bloodstream. Sometimes they're very well done, and sometimes, you will forgive me, like with Independence Day, clearly the aliens bombed the writer's shack first because the movie absolutely makes no sense. But right, I'll take my power book and communicate with an alien galaxy's computer. Yeah, right. That's right. Now, the only other thing I would say, Roger, sometimes people like me make a little too much of this. Like the fact that the audience cheered when they blew up the White House was supposed to prove that people were conservative. I think that's pushing it a little bit. And that's like English majors with not enough to do with their time.
Right, okay.
But this movie did. It did it in the 70s, and it'll probably do it 50 years from now. If you're still around and collect the residuals, God bless you.
I was going to ask him that question. You know, $38 million, how much of it is trickling down to Luke Skywalker?
Well, can you lend me a couple dollars till Tuesday?
Okay.
That's the answer to that.
We got to take a break. We'll be right back. Okay. Now, you mentioned that with success comes lawsuits. Well, there's a doozy that a lot of people are paying attention to, especially people who have a lot of success, and that is the case of Gary Went and his wife Lorna. And he's a big mucky muck at General Electric, and he's worth $100 million, and he's getting divorced, and he offered her $10 million, and she said no. And she says she wants half, and this is not a community property state. So usually when the money is this big, they get nowhere near half. But she says, Gary wanted to buy out my partnership, and I didn't want to be bought out. She said, it's like a hostile takeover. He offered me a very small percentage, and I said, that's not the price of the buyout. And the question is...
Who says true love is dead?
Yeah,
you know,
right.
You can write poetry like that. That's a Valentine's Day card.
Well, she said, is it an equal partnership, or is a housewife a junior partner? Which is what it comes down to. And she was a good one. I mean, she didn't just shop. This woman made a home while he did all his work. So that's the question.
Listen, I think we can hear all of our lawyers' VCRs clicking on all over town.
In California and a lot of states, this is an issue that's already over. You get 50-50 no matter which way.
Yeah, but that's just not such a state.
But the controversy now is that women sometimes are making more money than the guy, and so
but
there's a lot of squealing.
That's not this case, Roger. The case here is this guy went to work and did his job and they started out with like $2,500. She helped put him through graduate school or whatever, and he turned it into $100 million, but she was at home doing her thing, and she's saying, I should get half. You think so?
Yeah, she should get half.
I think it depends. It depends on the relationship. You know, if she was always really mad that he was away working all the time, then she wasn't that supportive in the money-making effort.
Well,
I might be being too logical about it, but I hate the whole alimony thing that you try to just decide how much a human being is worth after like 10 years of a relationship. That's just so weird. It seems like if you cared at any time about the person you spent, you know, your married life with, you want them to be able to exist in the lifestyle that you both became accustomed to, as close as you can.
Well, that's what they usually do. They give just enough money to, which to the 10 million probably would have done it. You probably could live on that. But she's saying, no, I was there from the beginning and I want half.
What she's gonna do, this is probably what is called, having a law degree I blessedly never had to use.
And you're divorced too, right?
Yes.
So what do you think?
Yes. Believe it or not, I think if she can prove, and that's what's going to come down to, in an equitable distribution, if she can sit there and prove, you know, 3 nights a week, the dinner parties.
Well, she was a great, she did.
Well, then what's going to happen here is the judge is going to use some kind of scale.
No, but what do you think?
I think she should get as much as she, who knows half? I don't know the facts. I mean, you know, the testosterone in me says not half, right? Obviously.
That's what I wanted to know there.
But the more nurturing side of me, the feminine,
the junior side.
Can you find it?
Yeah, it's around somewhere. Says 10 may not be enough. I mean, if you know, they're going to actually sit down, and this is what one of the many things that makes law the lunatic profession it is. They're going to sit down and try to measure this. A judge is going to sit down and say, well, what did she do? All right, you know, if he did all the big corporate breakthroughs, maybe 20%. But there's no reason to think that just because she wasn't at, you know, GE developing, you know, the new light bulb, that she didn't earn a heck of a lot of what he did.
Are there kids involved in this case?
That they don't say.
Because I always think of it as like checks and balances, and to me, the money aspect of it does keep you in line to a certain extent, but to me, the idea of somebody else raising my kids you know, it always
Right.
gives you the impetus to try and work things out. I mean, because once you have the kids, that's a real investment of your life.
But also, these big corporate types, have you ever seen them when they're going through a divorce or something? They're nothing. They're jello. They become miasma. They're just, you know, so I think she should get as much as she can.
Yeah, what do you want? Dennis Rodman, I mean.
Okay. All right, we've settled it again. We'll be right back. Dick Morris. Hey, Michael Moore, Kate Mulgrew, and Lisa Schifrin. Now watch a special Politically Incorrect State of the Union edition live on the East Coast at 10:30 and on the West Coast at 9:30 after Home Improvement. Then join us again for a brand new show at our regular time, unless you're in Guam. No, I'm kidding. That's...